The pursuit of pleasure. The topic is rather relevant in our modern day times. The modern generation as such, which believes in the Epicurean philosophy, eat, drink and make merry, for tomorrow you may not live. What then basically is pleasure? And how to define pleasure? Over the ages, since time immemorial, our religions, our organized religions, our gurus, saints, philosophers, mystics, speakers, reformers, they have all told us to abnegate pleasure, to give up pleasure. It's pleasure. Obviously, there are different types of pleasure. The materialistic pleasure, carnal pleasure, sexual pleasure, pleasure derived out of somebody's pain, sadistic pleasure, philanthropic pleasure, so many types of pleasure. We are all seeking these different types of pleasure. The pleasure which we treasure in our hearts, though we say that we are not seeking pleasure. We are all running after something or the other which gives us pleasure, sensuous pleasure. So to what extent are our indulgences in pleasure justified? To what extent do we justify our spirituality by seeking pleasure? The worldly man, the seeker of wealth, the seeker of so many things, there are umpteen number of things, innumerable, inexplicable, immeasurable. Though the worldly man has been told to live in the world unattached, without seeking pleasure. But then again, as far as pleasure is concerned, if the worldly man says that he is attached to nothing, then he or she is deriving pleasure from that sense of nothingness. And then again, that sense of seeking comes in, and the moment that sense of seeking comes in, it perforates in our day-to-day existence. That becomes pleasure. As far as I am concerned, personally speaking, it is only when the mind is empty of all seeking, it's only when the mind is empty of all its prejudices, preconceived notions, it's only when the mind is able to observe without a single conclusion that this sense of tranquil pleasure, sublime pleasure, quintessential pleasure, the godly pleasure, that we imbibe. And it is this pleasure through which we seek, through which we imbibe, through which we measure, through which we fathom the unfathomable. The pleasure that used to be, that was or rather tainted, because your gurus told you that this sort of pleasure you should desist from. That pleasure now, the moment you seek the utmost benediction, the benevolence, the blissful state of existence, that pleasure which used to be tainted is now transformed into a sterling pleasure of which we are very much apart. A pleasure which resides in our heart. A pleasure which we need not abnegate just because it has been stated in the scriptures, in your holy books, that pleasure needs to be given up for the sake of a holy living. Because now it is through that pleasure, that holy benediction, you attain a state of thoughtlessness, egolessness, and timelessness. And it is through this emptiness you derive utmost pleasure, and it is this pleasure which leads to the realization of the Supreme Being. The householder, the worldly man, he needs to earn money. And obviously, money can be earned by doing just the right thing in the right direction. The worldly man has been told to remain unattached and just perform his duties. Let us focus on the word duty. The word duty as such, or the word responsibility as such, that basically portrays compulsion. And when there is compulsion, there is no love. And a person without love can never draw pleasure from his inner being. To seek pleasure from the very core of our existence, we need to be in love with the harmony of life, the harmony of being. We are all related to nature. Nobody is isolated. The mountains, the rivers, the valleys, the springs, the rivulets, the blue red sky, the silvery moonshine, the sunrise, the sunset, the cooing of the dove, the cuckoo's song, they all appear to our senses. Nature does have a mellowing effect upon us. It does cast a mellowing effect upon us. It does purify our very soul. The thing is, the pleasure which we need to treasure is the pleasure which is empty of its contents. The pleasure which, despite being in the midst of our existence, doesn't exist. That basically is the supreme bliss, the Satchidananda we are talking about. The mind in meditation, the mind which allows thoughts to pour in, the mind which seeks for this pleasure, that mind is the only religious mind. Nothing else in the world is holy, nothing else in the world is religious. All religiosity, all piety, all devotion that pertains to this pleasure. Pleasure which is devoid of contents. Pleasure which is infinite. And this pleasure we need not pursue. This pleasure, this divine benediction, the bliss divine, it comes into being on its own. The moment we shed our inhibitions, we shed our prejudices, and become one with the real self, the reality within. You can call it an energy of sorts, vibrant in nature, the very movement of life, and life just moves on. The pursuit comes to an end, and the moment this pursuit, this blind pursuit, comes to an end, does the reality of pleasure, does the benediction of pleasure transforms our very existence, and we emerge as totally new. We are rejuvenated anew, and life goes on as usual, though our very perception, our very outlook towards life, that undergoes a radical revamp. That is what you call being a part of pleasure without being a part of the contents. The pleasure is there, but then again, this pleasure is so fragrant in nature that it completely stupefies us. We are completely engrossed in it, and basically at that particular point of time we are God intoxicated. That is what you call pleasure, which you derive out of the present, out of your very life that you are leading or that you have led till date. Thank you.